Today, join me as we make Mr. and Mrs. Claus to sit by the front door of your dollhouse for the holidays. Stick around and I'll show you how easy it is to make them. Alright, so for this we need some paint. I've got Santa's flesh, I've got white, I've got black, and I've got a red. I also have some of this decorative snow paint, and this is sold with the other paints, near the other paints, and there's a couple of different brands. We also need one of these large wooden flower pots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the smaller flower pots, 7 of the smaller flower pots, and one of these little plugs. And if you've seen my Pilgrim Pear video, this is kind of a variation on that. The Santa one's been around for years. I saw that many years ago in a magazine. And so we're just going to kind of play with those and create a new couple. So let me get my paintbrushes and we'll get started painting. Alright, so we'll need one small pot painted black. So we'll start with that one. Oops. Camera's over here today. And these will be Santa's boots. We'll need the black again later, but just for a little bit. Now, we need to do 2 of the pots with the Santa's flesh color. These are obviously going to be the 2 faces. And we'll do the whole thing in the flesh color, and then we'll paint over the back with the white. Need to do that color. Dropping things. It's been one of those days. I keep dropping and losing things. And I forgot to pick up my package of wet wipes, so I don't have my wet wipes over here. So my fingers are getting really, really gross. Alright, now the rest of these all need to be painted red. So, okay, even that one. And any red will do, whatever red you've got that you like. I think I'm going to squirt some out on the tray. I'm going to be using quite a bit of red. So I think, rather than dipping out of the bottle, we'll just do that. Big one. This is Santa's. This is Mrs. Santa's skirt, or Mrs. Claus's skirt. Oops. I'm very carefully painting right out of camera range. You don't have to cover the top of this one very well, but you do need to get it up on the edges. And after these dry, we can add the details, because we'll have to add things like faces and aprons and hair, but I like to add most of that after I have the base color on and get everybody assembled. It's much easier to make sure you don't put your face on the back when you do it all together. So these need to dry, and when they are all dry, I will be back and we will assemble, and then we'll start painting details. Alright, so I think my paint is probably dry enough that we can start assembling. So let's put a little bit of glue out. Once again, I'm using my favorite Fast Grab tacky. Any tacky type glue will work. I wouldn't recommend using a regular white glue that's not a tacky glue, simply because they don't grip very well. Alright, so we're going to take the big pot. This is Mrs. Claus's skirt. We're going to dip another red one. Just dip it right in. This is how I like to put the glue on. And then do your best to kind of center it. It's not going to line up perfectly, but pretty well. Those are both upside down. Then we take one of the ones that's painted in flesh color. And put the glue on the bottom. Again, we're trying to line them up. And then we're going to take our little button. I missed one side of the paint, but that's okay. We're going to touch up the paint once it's all put together. And put this one up here. And that is her little hat. So we'll let that dry. And now we'll assemble Mr. Claus. The black one goes upside down. That's his feet. And now we glue the bottoms together. A red one on top of there. Then and try and line them up. Then another red one. Then right side up. Put the flesh one. And then oops. No. Okay, well, we'll fix that when we paint. That is not all that difficult to fix, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And then finally, and I've got glue all over myself today. And now, when the glue dries, we will fix our paint and paint on the details. Alright, I've touched up the paint on everybody, and I went ahead and carried the cap color down onto the top rim on Mrs. Claus's head. We're going to actually paint over part of this on white, but I wanted the red to go all the way. Touched up the paint here, so let's get Santa's belt painted now. He'll need his belt. It doesn't take very much paint. We're just going to paint around this rim on this pot. And it's okay if you're not perfectly straight on the bottom edge, because that will be covered up here in a little bit. Looks like I still need to touch up the face level too there a little bit. Alright, now Santa has a belt. Looks like we could touch up his boots a little bit too. I didn't touch those up earlier. Now if you happen to have some gold paint, when this black is all dry, you could add a buckle to his belt if you want to. So that needs to dry. Oh, I know what we could do. We could also take a very, very, let's see, tiny brush, or better yet, do I have a pin? A pin. Toothpick will work, a pin will work. What we're going to do is add 2 black dots. Let's see if that's okay. We'll use the end then. Just add 2 dots. For eyes. We'll add 2 to Mrs. Claus too. There. Now, that black paint needs to dry, and then I'll be back. All right, let's start adding some white to Mrs. Claus first. I think the first place I'll add some white is on this hat brim. When I first painted it red, I wasn't going to add white here, and then I changed my mind. And then, I'll have to fix the red. Mrs. Claus needs an apron. I'm trying to center it below her eyes that I painted on. And I think it would be fun to add some white to her hem. So we'll paint just a little white right around here. And you've got the rims on the pots to kind of guide where you're painting. Just try not to stick your fingers in the wet paint. And if you make a mistake, it's just paint. Just paint over it. Paint makes a great eraser of other paint. Alright, now we'll set her aside. Now let's get Mr. Claus out. Santa needs a white brim on his hat too, and for his brim, we're also going to paint this top rim on the face pot. Now, if you want to, you could also paint the backs of their head pots with white to represent hair, or I suppose you could use gray too if you wanted to. That's optional. Then the other white on Santa will be his beard, because Santa has to have a beard. I think I'm going to bring the beard up onto his face a little bit. And then finally, this bottom rim right here, below the black rim, we need a white rim. This will be his fur trim on his suit. And to help steady yourself, if you hold on to one end of your structure here and set the other on your tile, it'll help kind of balance it. Right, now this white needs to dry, and then we'll go on to the next step. Right, so our paint is dry, so now it's time to add our texture paint. Now this is a decorative snow paint. There's lots of variations of this. This one is really coarse. Some of them are finer. I find it really doesn't go on well with a brush. You really have to put it on many times with your fingers will work better. And I've had thinner before that I really liked a lot better than this. This one is really, really thick, but this is what I've got. So we're going to add this to Mrs. Claus's hat brim. Yeah, I really like the finer better, but I can't find my jar of finer, and I didn't remember when I was at the store. There, push it down on the table. And the other place on Mrs. Claus that we need to put this. So we need to put it on her fur trim around the bottom of her dress. But it does give a nice texture. And it makes it look kind of like a, like a fur trim or something. So we've got that on. I'll let that dry and then I might put some more on. So let's work on Santa now. Santa needs this in 3 spots. He needs his fur trim on his jacket. Put on with a stick. Maybe I can be a little more precise. And then we need his fur trim on his hat. And he needs some on his beard. And if you've got a pom-pom, you can put a white pom-pom on top of his hat. I don't have a pom-pom, so I think I'll just put a gob of that on his hat for a pom-pom. So we'll let him dry, and then we'll go on to the next step. Well, here's Santa. He's got his snow that I used for his fur trim and his beard. Now I've got a little paint here, and let's cover up that little bit there where I slopped the white, but he's pretty much done. You could add a mouth on him if you want. In fact, I think I will. Let's get the red paint. He probably needs a mouth, doesn't he? Let's see if I can do this. What if I can do it upside down? Let's see. Do I have a toothpick? Let me get a toothpick. Alright, so I've got a toothpick. Let's see if I can do this upside down. Just paint his little mouth in here. And there he is. He's all ready to display by your front door of your dollhouse. Let's see about Mrs. Claus. Mrs. Claus definitely will need a mouth. There. Yeah, they're perfect. We'll just set them by the front door and wait for Christmas to come. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure and check out our Facebook page. And if you make these, post a picture for me. I'd love to see it. I'll talk to you later. Bye.